Welcome back to the Classic Soap Operas podcast. Today, we're heading back to January 21th, 1985 for the next episode in the Recap Archive series of Days of Our Lives. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the materials you, the listener, provide, and we'll really get into the interesting bits.
And today we've got something a bit different, right? A TV script.
Exactly. The learner sent us excerpts from a 1985 episode of Days of Our Lives, and honestly, it just drops us right into the middle of some major drama.
Yeah, a script like this is fascinating because you see reactions unfolding, like in real time through the dialogue. It's very immediate.
It really is, and the situation here is pretty intense. Melissa Anderson, adopted daughter of this wealthy industrialist who just died, she's vanished.
Okay, vanished.
And not just vanished, she's suddenly implicated in a cocaine smuggling ring.
Wow, okay.
Alongside this ex-con, Barry Weed, who's also missing. So you've got family drama, potential crime, danger. It's all there.
Classic soap opera setup for sure.
Yeah.
So our mission then for this deep dive.
It's really to unpack those immediate reactions, you know. How does the family deal with this? What happens right after she disappears and these allegations hit? We need to identify the key players and the immediate conflicts.
Got it. So where does the script actually pick up?
Well, right away you see this contrast. Melissa's gone. Tom, a family member, is clearly worried, searching.
Okay, panic setting in for some.
But then someone else in the room just offers coffee, like more coffee in the middle of all this potential crisis.
Huh. That's actually really human, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That difference in coping. Some people focus on routine, like making coffee, just to ground themselves when things feel chaotic.
Doesn't mean they don't care, maybe just a different way of processing the shock.
Exactly, a different mechanism kicking in.
And then what really strikes you is how fast the family defends Melissa, like total disbelief.
They jump right to character defense.
Immediately. This isn't her. She wouldn't knowingly do anything illegal, that kind of thing.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
When someone you know is accused of something awful, your first instinct is often to reject it because it doesn't fit the person you know.
Your image of them clashes with the accusation.
Totally. It speaks to how powerful our existing beliefs are.
And Ernest, her father, his first move isn't suspicion, it's practical worry.
What does he do?
He starts checking hospitals, clinics. The first fear is an accident, not crime.
That's a parent's instinct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Worry about safety first? The crime angle probably doesn't even compute initially.
Right. But then the newspaper arrives. Late edition of the Chronicle.
The plot thickens. Publicly.
And it's a bombshell headline. Melissa Anderson, cocaine smuggling ring, Barry Weed, both missing.
Oh, wow. So it goes from a private worry to a public scandal just like that.
Exactly. And you see the family's reaction shift in the dialogue from worry and disbelief to just outrage.
I can imagine. The newspaper report is the big turning point then. Yeah. It frames her completely differently.
Not just missing, potentially criminal, puts the whole thing on a much darker track.
Does the article give specifics? Or just the headline?
It does mention some details. Cocaine found in flower pots at the plant shop where she worked.
Okay, so a location, a method.
And that she'd been making deliveries for them for several weeks. It also says Barry Reed has a police wagon, which we kind of figure that's maybe a misreading.
Yeah, likely meant he has a record or is known to police. Police wagon sounds a bit odd.
Right, but even those details, maybe slightly off or not, they build a narrative, don't they?
Absolutely. The flower pots, the deliveries, it starts to paint a picture. Even if it's incomplete or skewed. It makes the accusation feel more concrete to outsiders reading it.
And the authorities, based on this, seem to just jump to a conclusion.
What's their theory?
Well, Melissa and Barry disappeared together, so they must be accomplices. That seems to be the working theory.
Which feels like a bit of a leap, doesn't it? Based only on them vanishing at the same time?
It really does. I mean, it needs investigating, obviously, but assuming they're partners right away.
Yeah, that shows maybe the pressure to get quick answers, and it highlights the danger of just relying on circumstantial stuff. Assumptions can form really fast.
But then, complicating that official theory, Aunt Marie shares something interesting.
Ooh,
what's that? She says Melissa had been acting, well, weirdly in the weeks before. Tired, bored, and maybe even afraid of Barry Weed.
Afraid of him. Okay, that changes things. That definitely complicates the idea of her being a willing accomplice.
Big time. It opens up the possibility she was unaware or maybe even, forced into something.
Coerced. Intimidated. It shifts the whole focus towards Melissa possibly being in danger herself.
And Marie feels really bad about it, too. She mentions their relationship was strained.
Ah, so regret enters the picture.
Yeah, she feels like if they'd been closer, maybe Melissa would have told her something was wrong. Adds this whole emotional layer.
That's very real. Breakdowns in communication, especially in families, can have huge consequences in moments like this. Leaves you with so many what-ifs.
So this leads straight to the fear that maybe Barry didn't just disappear with her, but maybe he took her.
Forced her to go with him. Okay, so now we're potentially looking at kidnapping, not just fleeing accomplices.
Exactly. The narrative shifts again. Potential criminal becomes potential victim.
That raises the stakes considerably. The family's fear would shift from legal trouble to her actual physical safety.
Right. And while all this family drama is exploding, the script cuts to other things happening in Salem, too. Hints of a bigger picture.
Like what?
Well, Marlena Evans gets back from Acapulco, learns about Melissa being missing from a telegram.
A telegram? That really dates it, 1985?
Doesn't it? Sent by Alice Horton. But Marlena seems preoccupied.
With what?
She's making these, cryptic phone calls, talking about needing protection, hiring a bodyguard for her kids.
Protection from what?
Something called the Stefano situation. Apparently, Stefano DiMera, this really dangerous guy who hated her late husband, is back on the scene.
Ah, Stefano DiMera. Okay, so we're bringing in the arch-villains. That suggests maybe Melissa's situation isn't isolated. Could it be connected?
Feels like it could be, right? This adds a whole other layer of potential danger lurking around.
Definitely broadens the scope of the threat.
Yeah.
Who else is involved?
We hear Bo is out looking for Melissa, so people are searching.
Good community effort.
And then there's Hope Brady. She's at the police academy, but she's already, fighting crime. Stopped a robbery at the family fish market, disarmed another robber somewhere else.
Wow, Hope's already kicking butt.
Yeah, quite the contrast to Melissa suddenly being on the wrong side of the law, supposedly. It highlights the disruption, Life goes on, crime happens, but one of their own is now implicated.
And it shows Hope developing her skills, setting her up as a contrast.
Also, Kimberly Brady returns, and she immediately starts investigating someone named Leopold Bronsky.
Bronsky? Who's he?
He's putting on some kind of extravaganza on ice. Kimberly knew him before, and she seems suspicious. Thinks she can use her charm to figure out what he's really up to.
An ice show. Sounds kind of random. Unless it's a cover for something.
That seems to be Kimberly's suspicion. So, another potential thread of intrigue. Maybe connected, maybe not.
Lots of threads starting to appear. You mentioned the authorities earlier. Any more on their reaction?
Yeah, there's a Sergeant Wilson. And she seems, pretty skeptical about Melissa. Maybe even hostile.
Hostile? What?
The dialogue hints she might have a bit of a chip on her shoulder about rich girls. She makes some harsh judgments.
Ah, potential bias within the police force. That complicates getting to the truth.
Definitely. And she has this confrontation with Norma, who's Melissa's friend. Norma fiercely defends Melissa, insists she's innocent, and reveals they were actually trying to find her themselves.
So friends sticking by her, challenging the official narrative, that's important.
Then, a really key moment, a phone call.
From Melissa.
Yes. Brief call to Aunt Marie, just long enough to say she's alive.
Okay, that's huge. Proof of life.
But then it cuts off abruptly, like she was pulled away or had to hang up suddenly.
Oh, no. So, alive, but maybe not free or safe.
Exactly. It confirms she's alive, which is a relief, but the way it ends just spikes the fear that she is in danger, possibly being held.
Validates Marie's earlier fears, maybe, that she was afraid of Barry.
Seems like it. Really unsettling moment. Deepens the mystery and the urgency.
Are there any other subplots popping up? It sounds like a busy episode.
There is. Over at some farm, this guy, Jimmy Porterfield, has a mysterious visitor.
Okay.
And they're talking about a prison being transferred after the ice show.
The ice show again? And a prison? What does that mean? Sounds like code.
Definitely sounds like code for something criminal. And they mention moving on to Caracas afterwards.
Caracas. Okay. This sounds like organized crime, potentially international.
Yeah.
And possibly linked to Bronsky's ice show.
It feels very connected, doesn't it? Another piece of this bigger criminal underworld, maybe operating in Salem.
And does anyone connect to Jimmy?
Yes. Marlena, remember she was worried about Stefano.
Yeah, hiring bodyguards.
Well, she makes this very deliberate, calculated phone call to Jimmy Porterfield, sets up dinner with him at the farm.
At the farm where he had the mysterious visitor.
The very same. It strongly suggests Marlena thinks Jimmy knows something relevant to the Stefano threat, or maybe whatever else is going on. She's clearly investigating.
Wow. So Marlena suspects Jimmy's involved in something shady related to Stefano, potentially. And she's going right to the source.
Seems like it. All these threads, Melissa, Barry, Stefano, Bronski, Jimmy, the ice show, they're starting to feel very intertwined.
Okay, so that's a lot happening in just these excerpts. For you, the listener, what are the main takeaways here?
Well, first, you're really thrown into chaos and uncertainty, aren't you? A shocking event happens, and perceptions shift instantly based on that newspaper report.
Yeah, the speed at which things escalate from personal crisis to public accusation is striking.
And you see loyalties get tested right away. The family's belief in Melissa versus the allegations, it's immediate.
Definitely. And second, it's clear this isn't just about Melissa and Barry. There are multiple storylines hinting at a much larger web.
Right. The Stefano situation, Bronski's weird ice show, Jimmy's farm conversations.
Yeah.
It feels like Melissa's disappearance might just be one symptom of a bigger problem in Salem.
A complex network of crime or intrigue seems likely.
And I think the third big thing is that phone call from Melissa.
The abrupt ending.
Yeah. It leaves you and the characters with this really strong sense of unease. Like, she's alive, but she's absolutely in danger. It's a real cliffhanger moment.
It really is. It confirms the danger is real and immediate.
So we're left with a ton of questions, obviously.
Like, was Melissa actually involved?
Yeah.
Knowingly? Or is she purely a victim?
Is she safe with Barry, or is he the threat? What is the full story with Stefano DiMera's return?
And Bronski's ice show, is it just a show or cover for something else like that prison transfer Jimmy mentioned?
And what's Jimmy's actual role in all this?
Yeah.
It's incredibly tangled.
This one episode, or these parts of it, really lay out a complex, suspenseful situation, shows how fast things can escalate.
And how appearances can be so deceiving, right? Everyone seems to have secrets brewing.
They really do. So maybe a final thought for you, the learner, to chew on.
Yeah.
Consider how easily that newspaper report shaped the narrative and potentially public opinion about Melissa, based on very little concrete proof initially.
Just accusation and circumstance.
Right. So it makes you wonder what other unseen forces or hidden agendas might be influencing events in Salem. It's a good reminder to always question the first story you hear and look for those deeper connections.
Thanks for listening to Classic Soap Operas Podcast. If you're enjoying the ride, hit subscribe, like, and stick with us as we untangle more moments from Salem's dramatic past. Thanks for listening.